Thank you. Mr. Miller, thank you for appearing. Good to see you again. Just referring to your opening statement, you talk about sustainable aviation fuel, the $8 million that you've invested recently with Licella and Viva. Is that correct?
Correct.
Very good, worthwhile investments, I would say. Although, can I just check, Viva aren't looking at doing any of their own production, are they? Are they still importing, or are they looking to doing offtakes from other producers?
Senator, I don't have the details at hand of the nature of that project, so if that's of interest, we can take that on notice.
It's okay. I think I know the answer. Going back to the hydrogen point, and this may be a question for the Minister rather than you, Mr. Miller. Talking to the industry, a lot of the headwinds that they're running into isn't being able to produce it. It's not the technology. It's not getting moving. It's having the offtakes, having the markets to sell it into. Is any of the government's thinking towards how do we ramp that up? For example, and I'll give you a good case in point. Next month, the IMO is having its meeting looking at adopting standards around using renewable fuels in shipping. In shipping. So any of the programs you've got looking at how do we develop those hydrogen offtake markets? And if I've got time, I'll ask a similar question about renewable fuels.
Yeah, look, it's certainly the case that investors in projects, whether it's hydrogen production or producing components for hydrogen production, offtake is absolutely one of the things that they are focused on. I was recently in Singapore with an Australian business delegation in shipping, where the global shipping operators are absolutely engaged in that was the discussion that was happening around the table, and in that conference, that thousands of delegates from businesses and shipping companies around the world. So there is a mismatch. This is why we say these things are lumpy. There is a mismatch between immediate offtake arrangements. Some firms have very broad offtake arrangements. Some are seeking to secure that. And what we know that the medium-term and long-term demand is going to be. There is a role for government in terms of our facilitative capacity, working with the investment community in these areas. Mr. Miller might have more to say about, without going into the sort of commercial in confidence discussions that they're having about the kind of discussions that are going on about offtake security in the sector. It's something that more broadly private investors and the other agencies across government who are investing and co-investing in these kind of projects are engaged in. There's no one answer to this problem. The government is not a procurer of hydrogen ourselves, so we're not in a position to offer, offtake certainty ourselves, but we certainly understand that is one of the things that makes these kind of makes it lumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can, Minister
Yes,
and
please.
Senator, just one other example is actually the Australian government has partnered with the German government. So it's an initiative called H2 Global. So that's German money. Effectively, they'll run an auction which will shore up supply actually in Germany, and then that difference will be coming out of this joint fund. So
if only we could
that's
get
a great
more of
example
those around the world.
of the offtake kind of arrangements.
Thank you. That's really helpful, Ms. Munro. It's slightly different, so with renewable fuels, and I applaud the $240 million announcement from the government recently. I assume some or a lot of that will come through ARENA, so hopefully that will go well. But there's a different problem with renewable fuels, renewable diesel and SAF, in that the markets already exist. You know, the products that they make can go into trucks and mining equipment and aircraft even right now. So the markets exist. So rather than that $240 million sounds like it's being earmarked for more startup, leaning into it, whereas the problem they have at the moment is they need off-takes, mandates and ways to be able to get to FID on the huge number of projects that are out there, which off-takes or mandates will definitely help them achieve.
I think, look, if I can provide more information, like specific, I mean, this sustainable aviation fuels is dealt with in some respects within the scope of DQ, but is also part of infrastructure and transport. All of the decisions have not been made about how the government is going to approach this question. I guess at its simplest, a coherent approach to all of those questions that you raise requires certainty and stability and the right investment signals. That you can't get those settings perfect, but we are very focused on that as a manufacturing opportunity for Australia, but also to make sure that, for example, our national carrier and the other airlines in Australia remain competitive. That also our tourism sector, very focused on this. There are constant representations from our tourism sector about their apprehension that if Australia doesn't secure investment in these propositions, if the airlines don't move fast enough, then Australia will become a less attractive destination, particularly for convention and conference tourism, where firms will just decide to go somewhere closer rather than come to Australia, and that's a very important part of particularly our big cities and regional cities' tourism market. Gone if we don't get that right. So we will.
I'm going to have to wind this up because I know you're just having a chat.
I was going to say let's wind it up and catch up.
Absolutely focused on that. If the government is re-elected, we will continue to work on that. If Mr Dutton is elected, those efforts will die.
Thank you. We'll go to Senator Roberts.